Hello, hi guys. My name is Jessica Milner, and I am the PLC lead for chorus grades 6 through 12 for chorus. And today we're going to talk about something that I am extremely passionate about, and that is choral practices for the visually impaired. Years ago, when I first started teaching high school chorus, I had two blind students. One was a senior when they entered into my program, and when I took the program over, sorry, there was a senior student, and then there was a freshman. Her name was Janai. Whenever, and I would like to briefly speak on like why I'm passionate about visually impaired students and accommodating them in the choral classroom is through my experience, I saw how Janai was often isolated because when it came to sight reading practice for LGPE or just classroom learning music in the same way that her other peers learn music, um, it was just difficult to see her just kind of feel left out and just listening along. And the only thing that she could really do was participate in like finding errors or errors in the practice and singing. And I didn't feel like that was a very fulfilling experience for her. So she and I created a sensory board for her that's easily adjustable with notes, durations, and that in the like, so that when we had class, it was easy and instantaneous for me to be able to transcribe what we were seeing so that she could also read it and feel it for herself. Um, that experience gave me light for this presentation because I am sure that there are many other choral directors who have blind students in their classrooms, and they just want different resources and abilities to give them a better experience or give them a better overall choral experience just like their peers. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it. For this presentation, I interviewed Sean from Columbus, Georgia. He is a current senior, and he was just accepted at the Schwab School of Music, and he'll be a music education major. He has a huge passion of being a director, and so I wanted to talk to a current student who can speak to their current practices at the high school level, and also as to what their experience was like auditioning and preparing to be a music education major. So, sight reading resources for the blind. To the right here, I have a picture, of course, like typical notation, what we see, and right underneath it is a braille music score. So that's what it would look like in braille. So accessible daily routines in which the student feels included. Make sure that there is an opportunity for your student to have some kind of job to do when it comes to, especially at this time in the rehearsal when we are sight reading and it is time for that. And Sean mentioned that his teacher prepared the uh, very similar to this, the notations um, for the sight reading, which is very short, very small, um, and and the turnaround for it can be like a day. We're gonna talk about like the turnaround time later on. So Sean talked about a lot of the times like being isolated a lot of the times in class because of his disability, and so other ways to encourage participation. His teacher had him sitting at the piano some days and doing oral transpositions, and that definitely made him feel more included. Encourage blind students to read music in Braille. Blind people do not read in a linear way that we read, so it's more of a horizontal, as you can see here on the screen. So what happens like if you have a student like I did who reads Braille but doesn't read Braille music? And once you start studying Braille music and Braille music notation and how difficult it is, and of course I'm I'm not blind, so I don't know how to read Braille. Um, what do you do? Well, there are multiple free websites used for Braille score that has a Braille music chart that will show you what it'll show you like this is what a half note looks like, half note, quarter note, eighth note, 16, all the notations and the pitches. Excuse me as well. The these websites are self-teacher or self-taught, and so they're very user friendly. Excuse me. They're very user friendly, and they feature all different types of Braille music methods, which there are 4 different types. Sean, the student that I was referring to earlier, has his experience. He just buckled down, got on YouTube, and just learned him for himself. He learned it on his own. And I know every student won't have that ability, but if you do have that, or you do have the opportunity to sit down with your student, there are free websites with Braille music scores for that. Sight reading class generates examples of LGP to practice. So generate the examples to practice first, and you can't transcribe music instantaneously without that tool. The tool is the Braille music notator, Braille music notator, and that notator takes PDFs of scores and instantaneously changes it to Braille music. There are a lot of hiccups when it comes to this piece of technology. One, it is extremely expensive to purchase this for a school building. It's to have one in every school building. It's very, very expensive. Another thing is it takes away time from the teacher. So like, as we know, as teachers are really, really busy. It is definitely harder to like wait for the days when you have it. But instead, if you had the Braille music notator, it would be an instantaneous transition. So you don't have to like worry about that. So make sure you have that sight reading in class beforehand. And most schools have Braille music, Braille printers for the students. Like I had Janai, like she could just type out and write out and print everything out. The thing is, what you don't want to do is have like you don't want to put like C, D flat, D natural, E flat, E natural, F, you know what I'm saying, like G flat. Like you don't want them to have it typed out that way and learning the music that way, because that's not the correct or proper way to teach sight reading or sight singing Braille score. Yeah, so another thing I want to say before I move on is accommodation trumps innovation. I was very kindly reminded by Sean that it is nice to, have teachers that'll use what they have around them to create sensory boards, to create different textiles and tactiles, but it is best so that the student can have the same experience as their peers to get a Braille music translator. Like request sight reading in Braille beforehand for all events. These events include like LGPE, all states, all district honor chorus, anything that has to do with an audition, even collegiate auditions that will that'll make it a lot more easier for the student. All right, guys. So that is just part 1 of Choral resources and choral practices for visually impaired students. In part 2, we're going to get into more resources and more helpful tips. And I really do hope this helps as you are creating the classroom environment for your visually impaired students. All right, bye guys. Hey guys, my name is Jessica Milner and I'm the PLC lead for chorus grades 6 through 12, and this is part 2 of choral practices for the visually impaired. All right, so let's get right into it. Okay, so Okay, great. Accommodations for the choral classroom. This is what we're going to talk about first. So on the left side, I put a picture of examples of Braille music, and I kind of broke down what a music chart looks like. So, on the left side at the bottom, you see where the treble clef is. You have a C major scale as it's notated for us, and then as it would be notated in Braille. All right. So easy access to Braille music translator. So after talking to Sean, there had been like a lot of brainstorming going on with him and other directors who also have blind students, and a that is probably one of the biggest issues or problems that we have currently in the classroom, and that is just having easy access to the Braille music translator. Now, a Braille printer is required by law, if I'm not mistaken, to be accessible. Um, Another thing is that it takes quite a bit of time to get one piece of score back to the director and the student. So, for example, one score costs $100 just for one song, one complete song, and it may take up to a week. And so you would have to send off all of the music, maybe for a concert, 7 to 10 pieces for your student to go send to get sent off and return it back at the right time. Software systems. We need software systems where directors can access a file, PDF, and use Braille translator. Students can read it over instantly. The reason why a lot of blind students in class feel left out or feel behind is because there isn't access to the software system that makes music for them right then and there for the director as well. Because of the long turnaround time and having to wait, sometimes you don't know what you need beforehand. Um, so this is very high. It's very needed and highly requested by many blind students. The software system is over thousands of dollars, the price. And so another issue that we come up with is who's going to fit the cost here when it comes to getting this translator. Number 3, um, every blind singer should have accommodation or access to Braille music for events such as GMEA, All District, and Encore. As it currently stands, when you go to audition for a college or collegiate university, once requested beforehand, your sight reading music can be translated into Braille for you, notated into Braille. But the scores for all states are not. And even the second round of all state auditions, the first round um, of all state auditions, you have to request it for your student, and they receive it the morning of, just like the rest of the students. But all state chorus, the second round, the second part where the students have to just start in the middle of a measure, and it's all auditory with usually like a clarinet sound or with the lead melody or the lead part for that section. As a blind student, that's very, very difficult because you can't hear measures in music. You can't rewind back to a particular, like time stamp for them. Um, so while talking and brainstorming about this, just having the ability for, if collegiate universities can provide sight reading examples in music for the students, then GMEA and all district honor corps can provide that for their students as well. The percentage of students, blind students, that make up these large group performances or select choirs are very small, and it would help them to feel included. It would help them to feel like I can keep up with my peers. Sean did mention when learning music by, that's also why learning music by rote is difficult, because it's we as seeing people, we read music linearly from left to right, but as blind students, they read not just, left to right, but left to right, up and down at the same time. So you have a student who wants to be a music major. So let's talk about preparing for the auditions, music education major. So for most universities, and I'm going to specifically discuss and talk about Sean's experience. He sang 2 prepared art songs, 3 sight reading examples, and there was an interview. Um, the sight reading examples were prepared, and he contacted the institution about 1 or 2 weeks before his audition and let them know what he would need. It's important to choose, as you and your students are sitting down thinking about like where to go for higher education. It's important to choose an institution that has success with blind music majors. Um, the school that I mentioned earlier, Short School Music, has credited success with blind music educators, um, and I have been brave. I have not been brave. I've been blessed enough to know them and actually go to school with them and take methods class with them. So definitely, when you're researching and thinking about the school for your student, make sure that it's one that has success in that and placing them after graduation as well. Possible challenges that would happen as blind music major, um, blind choral director would include classroom management, and we talked about this. Classroom management and implementing behavioral strategies with younger students at the elementary and middle school level. A lot of classroom management is what you can see, not just what you hear, but also what's going on in the classroom, you know, when they're supposed to be doing other independent work and independent learning. So I thought that was a great point to bring out from his interview, because as we start talking and dealing and making accommodations for students who are with impairments or students with disabilities, so should the method classes at which we are taught as educators. We need to be more accommodating and creating different tools, lessons, and innovations for those type of students that we will see in our classroom, that we will come across in our classroom. And so hopefully this sparks a conversation especially when it comes to like our major events like GMEA, All State, um, to make sure that all of our students feel seen, included, and that they have the same valuable experience as the rest of their peers. All right, guys, thank you. Thank you so much for watching this part 2 of choral practices for visually impaired students. I'm Jessica Milner, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.